On the surface, J.J. Watt's story looks like the kind of football tale we've seen before. A dominant defensive end who terrorized quarterbacks, became the face of a franchise, and eventually earned a Hall of Fame-worthy career.
And he goes down courtesy of J.J. Watt.
But before he was a 3-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year and the heart and soul of the Houston Texans, he was scrubbing stadium floors and delivering pizzas. So how does someone go from delivering pizzas in college to one of the most feared players in NFL history? Well, from a young age, J.J. Watt had one dream: to play football for his Wisconsin Badgers.
I shared my dreams with my parents. I shared my dreams with an elementary school teacher.
Growing up in a small town in Pewaukee, he was obsessed with the game. He played football in the yard, the streets, and on the fields of Pewaukee High.
It would always just start with the kids would go out between the three brothers and just go out and start playing. And pretty soon they'd have 15, 20 kids out there and have a full-scale game going on out there.
The boys were extremely competitive when they were growing up.
From cutting the grass, it was who could do it the quickest, who had to do more, who had to do less. It was just always something, and it was a good kind of competitiveness.
But football wasn't his only sport. He was on the ice by age 4, competing in hockey tournaments that took him across the U.S., even to Canada and Germany. He loved it.
My husband played hockey, so the kids always came to watch him play, and then it was a natural thing to get him on ice skates.
But the financial burden of travel, gear, and the conflict with football eventually forced him to give it up.
I actually grew up playing hockey when I was a kid, so it was hockey to start, and then it's just an expensive sport, so I couldn't play it forever, so I switched over, and football. The NFL was definitely the dream.
By 13 years old, football had taken over completely.
He said, Mrs. Keefe, I'd really like to play for the Badgers. And then he said, I really want to be in the NFL.
Tall, lanky kid, kind of all knees and elbows. But I'll say this, he was a good athlete because he was always a competitor. And he got that from his dad and from his grandfather.
We're talking with J.J. Watt from Pewaukee High School. J.J., what would you say your goals are for this upcoming season?
I'd say probably just to win conference and take my team deep in the playoffs. Because last year we made a strong run, but we want to go a little bit farther this year.
At Pewaukee High School, Watt was everywhere. Tight end, defensive end, basketball, baseball, track and field. He was a 4-year letterman in football, a state champion in shot put, and by his senior year, the best player in the Woodland Conference.
If I could go back to high school and relive my high school days, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Because it was one of the most fun times of my life, and the relationships that you build and the people that you're around every single day, that's the most important thing ever.
He was named team MVP, first team All-State, All-County, All-Area, and All-Conference. For most kids, that kind of resume would guarantee big-time college offers. But for Watt, the scouts weren't convinced.
How has the recruiting trail been going? What camps have you been to, and how's it all shaking out?
Recruiting sites gave him a 2-star rating, and when the top programs came calling, Watt's name was nowhere on the list.
For me, the recruiting process, I actually could not go to any camps because I had mono for a whole month.
So like in high school, you have like that camp circuit. You go do camps and you get offers. I got mono in high school, so I didn't get to do the camp circuit, but I got a couple offers here and there. Wyoming was my first offer.
So I ended up committing to Central Michigan and Brian Kelly, sitting in his office talking to him. And then I go home, and as soon as I land back in Wisconsin, I see Brian Kelly's going to Cincinnati. And I was like, well, man, that sucks.
So I committed to Minnesota. Glenn Mason got fired, so then I just committed back to Central Michigan. I was like, let me just go back to where I know.
They wanted him as a tight end, not a defensive end, but it was a scholarship, his only scholarship, and he wasn't in a position to turn it down. So Watt packed his bags and joined the Chippewas. But something just didn't feel right.
I started as a true freshman at tight end, but we ran the spread. Tight end didn't do much, and I could tell like they wanted to move me to offensive tackle. But that wasn't my destiny. Like I knew that wasn't for me.
I went over by my parents, and I only played 15 or 20 plays in the game. And I said, this isn't what I signed up for. You know, I want to be great, and this really isn't the opportunity that I thought it was going to be.
His freshman year season ended with just 8 catches. The environment felt unnatural. His dream of playing for Wisconsin, the school he had idolized since he was a kid, felt farther away than ever. And that's when Watt made the decision that changed everything.
Me and my parents were outside the buses, and I looked them right and I said, can I transfer?
I know I said I would have school paid for with this full scholarship, but is there any chance that you might be willing to support me transferring to Wisconsin and walking on?
And I think that anybody else looking into the situation would be like, man, you're crazy. You're a starter on a MAC championship team. You have a full scholarship. Why would you give that up?
Wisconsin was always the dream. I grew up there. I grew up watching the Badgers. I grew up seeing Ron Dane win the Rose Bowl. In Wisconsin, there's the Green Bay Packers and there's the Wisconsin Badgers. That's what you watch. and it's almost like it's a mythical, like unattainable level, you know?
He gave it all up. The scholarship, the scrutiny, the promise of a steady football career. He left Central Michigan and transferred to Wisconsin, not as a prized recruit, but as a walk-on. No scholarship, no guarantees, just belief.
We had some money saved, but we weren't prepared to pay for 3 years at Wisconsin by any means.
We said, we don't care what you do, but you're certainly not going to sit around this house all day. And as much as I'd love to have you work out all day, you can work out, but I don't get to work out for 6 hours a day, so get a job.
So, to pay his way, Watt picked up jobs wherever he could. Today's video is sponsored by DraftKings. Finally, after months of absolutely nothing, football is back. And I honestly can't tell you how much I've missed it. There's nothing like the start to a new season. It just hits different. And to kick off the season the right way, I've teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook to hook y'all up with something crazy. New customers who bet $5 get $300 instantly in bonus bets. And check this out, $200 off YouTube's NFL Sunday Ticket. It's honestly the perfect way to get back into the groove. A $5 bet turns into $300 in bonus bets you can use right away. Plus, you get $200 off Sunday Ticket, which means you can watch every out-of-market game all season long. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, sign up, and use my promo code ANOTHERSPORTS. I'm already eyeing a few games this opening weekend. I'll probably throw a same-game parlay or even try some live bets once the games actually kick off. But anyway, again, new customers who bet $5 get $300 instantly in bonus bets and $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket. All you have to do is just use my promo code ANOTHERSPORTS. That's ANOTHERSPORTS when you sign up. Thanks again for DraftKings Sportsbook for sponsoring this video, and the crown is yours.
Okay, Julie, are you all ready to learn how to make a pizza the right way?
Making it great. Yes, I'm ready.
I delivered pizzas for 6 months during that time. Not the worst job in the world, you know, you get to deliver pizzas, you get to drive around your car, listen to music, it's not that bad.
So Watt, he delivered pizzas for Pizza Hut, navigating the suburbs of Wisconsin with boxes stacked in back seats.
But yeah, there was the moment where I did deliver to a family and the little boy answered the door and he looked up at me and was like, Mom, JJ Watt's here, and I had to tell him, I have your pizza. And he just looked at his mom like, you know, why is JJ Watt delivering our pizza, you know? And for me, it was one of those moments where I just was like, that kid's not supposed to look at me and think, how did this football player fall from grace? He's supposed to look at me like, that's JJ Watt, like that's my idol.
He also worked as a janitor at Camp Randall Stadium, cleaning up the same field he dreamed of dominating.
We would clean the seats, we would power wash the floors, we would paint the railings. And I specifically remember one day right up there in section AA, I was painting that railing. Yeah, I painted it, so don't mess it up. Right up there, we get a 15-minute break, and I was sitting there on my break, and I was looking out over the empty field. And I thought to myself, imagine running out of that tunnel. Imagine being on that field wearing that uniform. That is my dream.
And through it all, he carried the lessons that had shaped him since childhood. The voice of doubters who said he'd never be big enough. The 4:30 a.m. workouts when everyone else was still asleep. The example of his parents, Connie, a vice president of building operations, and John, a firefighter, who showed him that hard work was the only way forward. The odds said he wouldn't make it, but Watt was never interested in odds.
When the Badger football team opens its season a week from this coming Saturday against Northern Illinois, all eyes will be on the Badgers starting quarterback. But when the Badgers are on defense, don't forget to watch number 99.
After redshirting by 2009, Watt had earned a spot on the field. He played in all 13 games at defensive end. He wasn't just another guy in the rotation anymore. He was starting to look like a star.
What a great play made by J.J. Watt.
If there was a big play needed to be made, there was a great chance that it was J.J. making.
That season, he had racked up 32 solo tackles, 12 assists, 4.5 sacks, 15.5 tackles for loss, and 5 passes defended. For a former walk-on, that was validated. For Watt, it was only the beginning.
Going down again, J.J. Watt.
The following year, in 2010, was when he truly arrived. Watt played again in all 13 games and flat out dominated.
The four-man rush, and they put pressure on Stanzi, who's tripped up by J.J. Watt. Back at the 38, you have to use one of your...
He led the team in tackles for loss, quarterback hurries, blocked kicks, and forced fumbles. He even recorded his first collegiate interception in a showdown against Michigan, a 15-yard return that showed off just how disruptive he could be. By the end of that season, Watt's stat line looked like something out of a video game, man. 42 solo tackles, 20 assisted tackles, 7 sacks and 9 passes defended, 1 interception and 3 forced fumbles. Not only was he productive, but he was the engine of that defense. And the recognition, it followed. Watt won the Ronnie Loft Trophy, awarded to the nation's top defensive player in terms of performance and character. He was voted first team All-Big Ten, named the second team All-American by the AP and Sports Illustrated, earned academic All-Big Ten honors, and perhaps most importantly, was voted the team's MVP.
Now, just so you know, these aren't ours. These were actual scouts who wrote this about you.
Won't consistently get the edge on tackles with his get-off or quickness. Lacks some lateral mobility, both rushing the passer and playing in space. His recognition skills leave something to be desired.
I think they just called you dumb is what they did. That's mean.
That's a knock on the old noggin.
When the Houston Texans selected J.J. Watt with the 11th overall pick in the 2011 NFL Draft, the reaction wasn't what you expect for a future Hall of Famer.
With the 11th pick in the 2011 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select J.J. Watt, defensive end, Wisconsin.
Fans booed. They wanted a flashier pick, someone who could make an immediate splash. Watt was seen as a safe choice, maybe even a reach. A hardworking walk-on turned first rounder, but not a superstar in the making.
It's a bad pick. You can get this guy in the middle of the round. If you're gonna pick him, move down and pick him. Don't waste an 11th pick on him.
It didn't take long for him to change that narrative.
Going down back at the 31-yard line, courtesy of J.J. Watt, the rookie.
Here they come again. Oh my goodness, this is J.J. Watt.
As a rookie, Watt started all 16 games. He was a problem from the start, bringing that same motor that had defined him in Wisconsin. That season, the Texans didn't just improve, they made history. Behind Watt in the defense, Houston clinched its first ever postseason berth.
The whole Bulls on Parade thing was birthed that season.
It was an unbelievable feeling because we never had seen defense like that in this building.
And on that playoff stage, Watt introduced himself to the world. In the wild card game against Cincinnati, he delivered the moment that would define his rookie season.
Batted down and intercepted. Intercepted by J.J. Watt. Touchdown, Houston. J.J. Watt, the rookie from Wisconsin, who began his college career at Central Michigan, left delivering pizza. He said, "What am I doing with my life?" Walked on at Wisconsin, became an All-American, an academic All-Big Ten, and scoring a touchdown in his rookie season for the Houston Texans.
Watt would finish his first postseason with 14 tackles and 3.5 sacks across 2 games, proving he was built for the biggest stage. And if 2011 was his introduction, then 2012 was his coming out party. That year, Watt didn't just get better. He became unstoppable.
I mean, you look at J.J. Watt, you look at his production, 2012, 20.5 sacks. I mean, he is a once-in-a-generation defensive lineman.
He racked up 20.5 sacks, 39 tackles for loss, and 16 pass deflections. Numbers that seemed almost impossible for a defensive lineman. His ability to wreck games was unlike anything the NFL had seen in years. He wasn't just sacking quarterbacks. He was batting down passes, blowing up running plays, and forcing offenses to rewrite their entire game plans around him. For his dominance, Watt was named the NFL Defensive Player of the Year, the first of 3 times he'd win the award, tying him with legends like Lawrence Taylor. And this was only the beginning. In 2014, the Texans rewarded Watt with a massive 6-year, $100 million contract extension. At the time, the richest deal ever for a defensive player.
Are you thrifty with your money?
I try to be, yeah.
You do?
I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, Pewaukee, Wisconsin. So,
that's the whole population right there. Good to see you guys.
For most guys, that's the moment you kind of breathe easy, you know? You've made it. You take care of your body, protect your payday, and extend your career. But Watt, he wasn't built like most guys. Instead of easing up, he went harder. That season, he was a human highlight reel. He scored not 1, not 2, but 5 touchdowns, including 3 on offense. He put up another 20.5 sacks, terrorized QBs on a weekly basis, and somehow looked even more dominant than before. The voters didn't just give him his second Defensive Player of the Year award, they did it unanimously.
It takes so many people to make
what you see there. I mean, it's trainers and equipment staff. It's people in the cafeteria making food, lots of food.
Those boos from draft night, they were long forgotten. In their place, a legend was being built. But Watt's story was never just about football.
Tonight, the forecast is urgent and distressing. Hurricane Harvey intensifying rapidly.
Growing in size and strength, barreling through the Gulf and headed toward the U.S. tonight.
It's expected to make landfall less than 24 hours from now. Mandatory evacuations are underway across the region.
When Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston in 2017, Watt started a fundraiser with the modest goal of $200,000. What happened next was unprecedented.
As you know, the remnants of Hurricane Harvey continue to dump unprecedented and unmanageable amounts of rain on the Texas Gulf Coast, the city of Houston, and soon the state of Louisiana. The stories and images of heroic people risking their own safety for the safety of neighbors and of perfect strangers are nothing less than inspiring. Things are bad down there, and those life-threatening conditions have brought out the very best in people. And one of those people is Houston Texans superstar J.J. Watt.
I think to be able to see how many people stepped up to the plate, to see the visuals on TV, not only of the firefighters and the policemen all stepping to the plate, but the everyday citizens. And then obviously to start the fundraiser and to see over 150,000 people step to the plate, it's unbelievable.
Donations poured in from everywhere. Fans, athletes, celebrities. By the end, Watt had raised over $37 million for relief efforts.
You know, people have said this. I mean, he's a phenomenal football player. This is what he's going to be remembered for most.
Did amazing work right there.
He did.
That moment cemented him as more than just a player. He was Houston's hero. For a while, it felt like J.J. Watt was indestructible, a machine built to dominate. But the truth is, even machines break down.
So they convert, and J.J. is now down. And Marshall is already out, and now Watt's on the ground.
But if there's one thing J.J. Watt has never done, it's quit. So, in 2018, he came back, not just as a role player, but as the same game-breaking force he had always been. He finished with 16 sacks, 7 forced fumbles, and a first-team All-Pro nod. But still, the injuries never truly went away. The Watt who once seemed invincible was now constantly battling to stay on the field. And yet, through every surgery, every rehab session, every doubt-filled offseason, he kept finding a way back. Because honestly, that's who J.J. Watt was. Not just a dominant player, but a fighter who refused to let injuries define his story. By 2020, the writing was on the wall though. Watt, he was still a force, still capable of game-changing plays, but Houston was no longer the place it once was. The team was falling apart, leadership was fractured, and Watt, the heart and soul of the franchise, had carried as much as one man could. So after a decade in Houston, Watt asked for his release in early 2021.
I wanted to do this on video as opposed to putting out a statement or doing a press conference or anything like that, because I want you guys to hear it directly from me. I want to speak directly to you and the city of Houston so you can hear the words straight from my mouth. I have sat down with the McNair family and I have asked them for my release, and we have mutually agreed to part ways at this time. I came here 10 years ago as a kid from Wisconsin who'd never really been to Texas before. And now I can't imagine my life without Texas in it. The way that you guys have treated me, besides draft night, I mean, you guys booed me on draft night, but every day after that, you treated me like family. And I truly feel like you're my family. Since that day, I have tried to do everything in my power to work and earn your respect and try and make you proud on and off the field. You guys have given me everything and more, and I can only hope that you feel like I've given you everything I have.
The Texans, they granted it. And just like that, the era was over. Watt chose to sign with the Arizona Cardinals, determined to prove he still had something left in the tank. His time in the desert wasn't about racking up the same stats he once did, but it showed just how much football still meant to him. Even when injuries followed him to Arizona, even when he wasn't at his peak, Watt's leadership, presence, and relentlessness mattered just as much as the numbers ever did. When Watt played his last NFL game on January 8th, 2023, fans across the league, not just in Houston or Arizona, they celebrated him. Teammates, opponents, even coaches who once game planned against him all echoed the same thing. Watt wasn't just one of the greatest defensive players ever. He was one of the most respected.
Brother, Jage, I just want to say congratulations on retirement. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. I've been asked the question, what's the biggest impact that JJ's career has had on me? I've thought a lot about it, honestly, and the number one answer that I can honestly say is that I never had fear of what if I put in all this hard work, all this dedication into football, and it doesn't work out.
JJ, Peyton Manning here. Congratulations on your incredible football career.
Man, you were a pain in my ass for a long time. You were an incredible player. You treated people with respect. You were a great teammate. You cared about the team. You sacked a lot of people, but it was an honor to share the field with you.
Congratulations, buddy. See you in camp.
So I ask again, how does someone go from delivering pizzas in college to one of the most feared players in NFL history? Well, by never letting doubt define them, by refusing to settle, and by getting back up every single time.